Hello everyone, good evening. My name is Satyajit and I would like to start another question from Indian society, and we are going to discuss one question and its content and structure, etc. This program is Nandeep Academy's flagship program on YouTube where we discuss one question and its answer on daily basis on YouTube. As I'm society and sociology faculty, I would like to start with that question from that topic. That question is very interesting that I have brought for you. This question is about COVID-19 and class inequalities and poverty. Okay, let's first discuss and read question. The question is on COVID-19 and poverty. COVID-19 pandemic accelerated class inequalities and poverty in India, and you have to comment in that regard. This question was asked in 2020, just after the COVID pandemic, or at the peak at the COVID pandemic, and this question was for 10 marks. Let's discuss what can be the body part. Just this is one very unique but one dimensional question. You have to just talk about what are the possible reasons because of COVID-19 which led to increase in poverty and class inequalities in India. This is very simple as that. Okay, so there is no need to structuring, and I think it's very simple structure. You have to introduce with few facts, and likewise you have to conclude with few important initiatives how we can minimize. Okay, but rather let's discuss that structure also. Okay, this question is for 10 marks, and we have two blank pages to write these 10-mark questions. And if you structurize this, design this question, you have 3 or 4 lines for you can invest 3 or 4 lines for introduction, and likewise 3 or 4 lines for conclusion. And as this question is about COVID-19 class inequalities and poverty, you may mention few data if you have. Okay, poverty before COVID-19 and poverty after COVID-19. Okay, something like this. Or if you had data about class inequalities, so you can mention that. Okay, so this can be a question. Or if you don't have the data about poverty and inequalities, again, very simple idea. Any diplomatic, let's say, introduction can work here. And as conclusion, you can provide few solutions how we can minimize the present class inequalities and poverty out of COVID-19. Okay, how we can minimize that, how we can decrease and lower that. And the body part is very simple. How that COVID-19 led to poverty and class inequalities. Okay, and if you have, let's say, 4, 5, 6 points, you can argue like that. That's it. It's very simple structure. Okay, now let's talk about data and we can say content. The introduction can be very simple, as I also don't have data about that. And if I was at the men's exam hall, I would have done like this. Okay, the COVID-19 pandemic indeed had a significant impact on exacerbating the class inequalities and poverty in India. Simple. I am just favoring and I am arguing in favor of that. You can say question. Yes, it has happened, and full stop. And how it has happened, I would like to start with this word. So this can be your diplomatic introduction. And as content part, what are the possible reasons behind that? Why the COVID-19 increased the income inequalities? The first point can be it led to economic disparities. You know that in COVID-19, on let's say on a particular night, the lockdown we deployed and we implemented the lockdown situation, lockdown policy, and because of that lockdown overnight, many million jobs were, let's say, you can say, lost by the already poor people. And because of this lockdown, the unemployment rate rose to staggering rates and staggering ratios, and millions of the population and people are already who were poor, they were left jobless. Additionally, the individuals from the higher income brackets, like the individuals from the government services, the individuals from the IT sector, and etc., their job was secured. Okay, at the same time, they had opportunity to work remotely, and because of that, they had a huge saving and income was continued. That's how, on one hand, we observe the one informal labor workers, they were left jobless, and on another side, the already higher income group people, they were secured in the job and they were allowed to work remotely. So economic disparities increased because of COVID-19 and lockdown. Additionally, the access to healthcare, if you observe that the COVID-19 and its facilities and COVID-19 and its healthcare facilities and treatment was so expensive that the poor families who faced COVID-19 issues, they were thrown into the poverty. And the healthcare bills and medical bills was in terms of lakhs, at least 5 to 6 figure bill of medical and healthcare services. That is how it led to indebtedness, loans, informal dates. At the same time, the many population and many people from the poor families were thrown, or actually the families were thrown into the poverty. On the other hand, the income bracket, higher income bracket groups, they had health insurance, they had savings and etc. And because of that, their income security was ensured. Their access to healthcare was another issue. Education is another issue. Because of it, in near future, the income inequalities and poverty is going to rise. Because of that lockdown, the schools were shut down, and the schools were running online. The education was running online, and because of that online education and online access, the online education requires infrastructures, like we require internet, we require mobile phones, we require laptops and tablets. And the children or the students from the poor families, they could not afford this digital infrastructure to educate themselves online. And because of that, it hampered their quality, their education, their skill. And when they are going to enter into the workforce, this is going to impact their income, this is going to impact their skills, and this is going to again let's say bring them, or they are going to end up in the lower income groups again. So education is another factor because of which the income inequalities will remain there, and the poverty will remain there despite, let's say, 5-10 years of COVID-19. Then social safety nets. What is social safety or social security? Government actually provides help to the vulnerable sections through with the help of few welfare schemes and benefits. And as the number of patients and number of you can say deaths was in the terms of lakhs and crores, the government and its budget and its funding was inadequate to provide social security to all of them. And many of them were neglected, ignored, or because of these budgetary constraints, they were left out of the social security net. And because of lack of social security net, the families were again thrown into poverty because of medical bills or deaths of their let's say, you can say, breadwinner in the family. And that's how the death of a breadwinner or the medical bills, etc., it led to nothing but what again you can say exacerbating the income inequalities those already were existing. So social security net were let's say in low quantity. Then migration crisis was another important factor which led to poverty and income inequalities. As the lockdown let's got started, it led to huge, let's say, waves of migration or the informal labor and casual labor to their respective states. We observed these migration waves, or reverse migration waves rather, I would like to say. Reverse migration waves from Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, etc., to their respective hometowns in UP and Bihar. And as the transport facilities were not working or they were shut down, they chose to, let's say, walk or cycle to their respective home places, which were at least 1,000 kilometers away. And because of this migration crisis and the service crunch in those migration journeys, and it led to again poverty as they were unemployed, jobless, and etc. Thus, they are now in the present India, the contemporary India, they are again becoming stressed in the rural economy and etc. Many of them have not returned yet, and they have settled there, giving stress on the agricultural resources. And that's how the migration crisis also led to income inequalities and poverty. Beyond that, urban and rural divide we observed starkly in COVID-19 phase. In urban areas, the COVID-19 or the COVID virus propagated, transferred from one person to another very fastly. And in urban areas, we observed higher number of job losses. Beyond that, higher number of human lives were lost. And as the resource crunch was more in urban centers than rural India, we observe a clear-cut distinction between the higher rate of urban poverty and rural poverty. Yes, in rural India's the COVID-19 also impacted, but not as compared to these urban centers. And the urban poverty rose staggeringly because of this COVID-19 issues propagation in urban centers, especially Pune and etc. and Delhi, and higher pace. So the rural-urban divide was again one of the important factor because of which poverty increased and income inequalities increased. So on these 5-6 points, we can argue the COVID-19 led to India's poverty or higher poverty and higher income inequality. In conclusion, we can provide a solution how we can in near future provide budgetary allocations, employment to this jobless, who the persons who actually lost the job during COVID, how we can provide better health facilities, how we can go for better medical and insurance facilities, or how we can minimize this income inequality because of this COVID-19. the conclusion can be in the solution format. Let's say, for example, addressing these disparities, what is necessary? It is not only short-term relief but long-term relief, like healthcare, education, social safety, and equitable economic opportunities. This can be your conclusion. So, on this note, I would like to conclude this question also, and I'll like to meet you again in the another session of daily answer writing program, where we will bring one more question from Indian society. Till then, thank you very much and have a good night.